So we have got the overall program design stuff for seniors. So this is going to be sort of it's sort of supposed to serve as like a be all end all sort of approach to program design, without necessarily like, going over like training splits and things like that. But the idea here is today we're going to spend a lot of time talking about specific acute variables. Acute variables are all the stuff that you consider when you consider like designing a program: sets, reps, tempo, intensity, rest period. But the one that and then obviously exercise selection is also an acute variable. We just haven't talked about that one just yet. So we want to be familiar with some of the physiologic considerations for our adult clients, and like, what obviously is going to be different when training them compared with like average adults. What phase of training is most appropriate? So we are going to get into training phases today instead of just being in training levels by themselves. And then we'll talk about how to design a safe and effective program for our clients. So, when it comes to programs, they a lot of times, and this actually, the beginning of this PowerPoint actually sounds really good. Like the sentence was like, programs are often developed based on past experience. That's sort of the initial traditional approach to program design. Like back in the day, when there really were no such thing as like personal trainers. There were just like these big guys in the gym who generally worked out a lot, and then people would come in and they wanted some of those health benefits as well. And so those big guys would be like, hey, well, why don't you just do what I did, and then they would kind of put them on the same thing. And people would get some results, but again, like it was very, it's kind of middling results, right? Because it's not specific to them. So a lot of times people will just like do something that they did in high school, or they'll do the same kind of thing they did with a trainer once years ago. But when it comes to actual program design, again, going back to what we talked about yesterday and just talking about being as specific as possible, we want to design safe and effective programs based on like our knowledge set, which is obviously going to be much more advanced than somebody who hasn't studied how the body works. Our interpersonal skills, so like understanding like how to meet the needs of our clients. And yeah, then past experiences, like there is a little bit of like experiences as well, but like it all comes from a place of like, scientific knowledge, which is what, we've been sort of studying for the last couple of weeks, or months, or however long. So when we're talking about program design, the idea here is that if you want to be as proficient at it as possible, and take an integrated approach, integrated program design is going to be any program design where, our client is progressing specifically, but also like regressing if they need to, and then also like doing the right type of reps with the right type of sets, like you wouldn't want to do like one set of one workout, or I'm sorry, one set of one rep. You know what I mean? Like that isn't going to be enough training volume to result in like growth. But likewise, you also wouldn't want to do like 5 sets of like 20 repetitions on something, because that's actually kind of a lot of volume overall. You're doing a lot of repetitive movements and stuff. So where is that middle ground? Well, that's where all of our acute variables come from. All those numbers that we've been looking at and exercise selection and stuff, that's NASM didn't come up with those. Those are, those numbers have been studied and tried in labs for years now and observed. NASM just kind of compiled them into an easy to understand model that, we can sort of take that knowledge and apply it. So in order to be proficient in this, we want to understand which exercise is most appropriate for our clients. So we do need to talk a little bit about like, choosing stabilization versus strength versus power, but also what is based on their posture, anterior pelvic tilt, posterior pelvic tilt, knees cave in, knees cave out, whatever it happens to be. Contraindicated exercises. So if they do have osteoporosis, maybe we avoid foam rolling, but we can still do maybe like a massage gun or something like that. Which exercise intensities are appropriate. Again, if they're lifting like relatively, heavy, and when I say relatively heavy, let's say we have them do like a middle ground amount of weight, like maybe like 10 repetitions, right? That'll be somewhere around 75% of their 1 rep max, you know? And we need to determine that. And so we write that number down, consistently, and then we look for improvements from there. And then the appropriate number of exercises, we want to make sure that we're not overdoing it when it comes to exercises, right? It's not like when it's chest day, for instance, we don't want to do like bench press, then an incline chest press, then the cable fly, and then like body weight dips, and then the chest press machine, and then like, and it's just like chest over and over and over and over and over again. Because we start to run into this problem that the book doesn't call this, but I like to call it junk volume. It's where, you did do a lot of volume for your body parts, but unfortunately, a lot of it, your form wasn't the best. You were pretty weakened by that point. It wasn't exactly your best work. And so then we need to find the optimal amount of like sets and reps to perform. So when we are looking at training volume, and then how many days a week our client should be training. So that's obviously like a lot of stuff, right? That's a lot of considerations to make. And again, that's why the model exists, because it makes it a lot easier for us to understand and break that down into a much simpler, easier to read section. So we also want to make sure, as we're sort of like moving through this, that, when if it's a senior client or if it's an average client, we want to make sure that we're leveling out the right amount of volume overall per week. And that's one thing that NASM, I think, actually kind of lacks a little bit in terms of how they talk about this. Thomas, I know you've heard me talk about this before, but there has been like a lot more research in recent years behind how much training volume is enough or too much training volume. And let me just see if I can find training sets. See if I can find a picture of this. No, that's definitely not it. That's also not it. Can we please just, oh my God. I'm looking for sets per week, not sets per freaking set. Internet, get it together. How do I, reader. Oh, nope, not even close. Not even remotely what I'm looking for. I don't know why I just must not be Googling this right. All right, well, we'll make our own. That sucks. Okay, so when it comes to training volume, generally what we see is we're looking for anywhere from about 10 to 20 sets per week, okay, per body part. So I'm gonna create like a little chart here. So imagine like, this is the amount of like muscle growth over here, right? So this is, that's our muscle growth potential. And then over here, this is either going to be, let's say this is like 5, we'll say this is like 10, 15, and then we'll say like 20, and we'll say like 25. And we'll take it up to 30 as well, just for the sake of it. So this is kind of like, this is representing like, this section here is sets per body part per week. Okay. That's what we're seeing on this side. Sets per body part per week. So if we are seeing around like, if we're seeing around like 5 sets, or if we're seeing like 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30. So we actually do see an increase in muscle growth associated with doing more sets. I mean, obviously, like no sets, you get no muscle growth, right? But then it's going to climb a little bit, right? It's going to climb as we get up to like 5 sets. and that's going to climb as we hit up to about 10, which is really good. And then it might even climb a little bit higher somewhere in this section here. But then it starts to kind of cap out. And right around 20, it kind of flattens. And we don't really see necessarily like a decline, but we do sort of see it just kind of like flatten out and kind of get stuck there. It doesn't really, we don't really see any benefit beyond 20 sets per body part per week. So you can kind of see, in fact, sometimes we will actually see, diminished gains as we do too much volume because we're running into recovery problems. So really our perfect range is in this section right here. We're trying to take advantage of basically somewhere between 10 and 20 body part sets per week. So if you considered that, let's say you are, writing a routine for a client, and we'll put like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You could do it in such a way that like, let's say Monday is like, we could do the bro split, right? Let's say it's chest, back, shoulders, arms, and abs, right? And legs. We gotta have legs in there. We'll put arms and abs together. We'll do this classic like 5-day routine. Rest. This is kind of your classic like Monday through Friday routine. So if you were to do like, let's say bench press, and we would do that for 4 sets of 8 repetitions, right? Actually, I'm just gonna put chest exercise. Chest exercise 1 for 4 sets of 8. And then we do chest exercise 2 for, let's say 4 sets by 8. And then we do, chest exercise 3 for 4 sets of, let's say 10. And then we do another one. Oh my God, I can't type today. 4 by 10, right? So now we've got 4, 8, 12, 16 sets, and then let's go one more for a total of 20. And we'll do that one for like maybe a burnout, right? We'll do like 4 sets of 12. So now it's like, okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 exercises in one routine, and I hit it once per week. That may be an okay routine, like that could have a positive effect. But like I said, I'm running into the problem of like junk volume here, right? Like by the time I get to like, honestly, like these 2 exercises here, my chest is going to be completely burnt out. And I could follow this same rep scheme for my back stuff and my shoulder stuff, my arm stuff, my leg stuff, right? And there is one other problem with this as well. One other thing that we've seen that is more effective for like muscular growth is that if we take and we revisit our body parts like twice per week, that's actually been shown to be a little bit more effective as well. Hitting body parts 2 times instead of just once gives you a chance to kind of regrow, because you actually don't take a full week to have to recover, no matter how hard even if you liquidate your chest, or liquidize, I should say. So what if we changed up this routine? What if we did something just a little bit different, where maybe we did like a upper, or if we did like chest plus our back, and then over here we did like shoulders, plus legs, right? And then we took rest in the middle of the week and sort of repeated that. And this is just one example of this. And then we took rest and rest. Now we actually can lift 4 days per week and have the other days off. And all we have to do is take chest exercise 1 and 2 and leave them on that first day, and take chest exercises 3 and 4 and move them over here. Now imagine if we, filled out this entire worksheet here, we would have back stuff and shoulder stuff and arm stuff and, things like that. But we would just take those exercises, right? We would have, this is back instead. And then over here we have like leg, or let's go with arm. We'll go with arms. Yeah. I guess we would have like arm, arm, arm. We would probably do like arm plus abs if we were doing it. Like, but it's probably like twice the number of exercises because they would move a little bit faster. Did it again. I don't know why I keep trying to do that. So we'd say arms plus abs. You don't think the word, oh, I see. And lastly, we'll get legs in here. Oh my God, that should say shoulders. I need to switch my days because I goofed it up. Let's write this down. This is now shoulder day, and this is now leg day. So now, there we go. Now we've got sort of the classic like setup here, right? But again, like rather than doing everything on one day, right? Now what I can do is I can take chest exercise like 1 and 2, and I can put it on the same workout as like back exercise 1, 2, and 3. And then the other day I can take chest exercises 3, 4, and 5 and put them together with back exercises, 4 and 5, right? So now it's like I'm getting 1, 2 chests here and then 3, 4, but it's still 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 sets per body part per week. And the same thing would be true of like legs, right? If I go 3, 3 of those there, and then these 2 here, and then finish it off with like these 2, and then like these 3, right? And then the arm stuff. Maybe I could put arms and abs all together on one day if I really wanted to. I would probably say like you should get a little bit of ab work thrown in on this day, on like your shoulder, legs plus abs, and then like chest, back plus arms, because that would pair obviously very, very well. So then we would just move that training volume over here, right? We would say 1 arm exercise, or maybe 1 or 2 arm exercises here, and 1 or 2 arm exercises here, and 1 or 2 ab exercises here, and 1 or 2 ab exercises here. So we see how like that training volume works a little bit different, and we actually end up coming out ahead with more rest, or an opportunity to maybe do some like cardio for recovery, maybe like a yoga class, something else in between to stay physically active, but we've moved our training volume around. And this is just one approach to that, but you guys saw how we kept it the same. I literally just dragged stuff down from one column to the next. And that's really the approach that we're looking for when it comes to like laying out our training volume and why we need to choose our exercises specifically. Does that make sense, guys?
Yes, perfectly clear.
Follow
Yes. Yes, thank you.
All right, so there's even more of this out there, obviously. Like I said, actually, one of my favorite routines, if you do not want to do a lot of cardio, if you only want to have like one sort of dedicated day to cardio per week, I really love like a push, pull, and then chest, back, legs. So it's a 5-day split: push, pull, chest, back, legs. I find that that's a really good training split as well. Or even just, pushing and pulling, right? Like, obviously this is a little bit of push on both days here. That's a simple routine. Could have just put split it up differently. There's a million different training splits out there, lots of different approaches, but what's nice is it makes sure that you're not overworking anything at one specific time, and you're giving the body adequate rest, and you're reaping all of the benefits of like muscle gain and strength and everything like that. So we're going to design all of our programs based on, specifics to our clients, like based on their schedule, based on, because that's the thing, like I just said, like, that's the sort of premium muscle growth section. What if they don't have a schedule to support that, all right, well, then we'll figure something else out, And then we need to make it always designed based on like their posture and where we've sort of progressed them throughout the OPT model. So the OPT model, NASM loves to always say this. It is a systematic, meaning that like it is moving from stabilization to strength to power, but it's also like, moving from high reps to medium reps to low reps. And it's also periodized. It allows you to kind of cycle through things, which is going to be great for improving all of the sort of functional capacities here. So general considerations for senior clients, right? In general, we want to exercise about perform resistance training about 2 to 3 days per week, just because as we get older, we tend to need a little bit more recovery. So that 4-day workout was probably not going to be the most effective for like a senior client. So instead, you might end up doing a training split of like workout A, workout B, which is a little bit of everything on each section. And then they can just flip back and forth between each, I love like a good total body routine. If we were to just take some of our examples from yesterday, I'm just going to pull up an old example here, actually. That's a client workout. OPT examples. There it is. I need to put this over here along with social resources. Oh no, that is blank. Example month 1. There we go. So here's like a total body routine, right? With a senior client, maybe I just have them do this same workout 3 days, not in a row, but 3 times this week, right? They do a ball squat curl to press, stability ball chest press, ball row, ball combo number 1, biceps curl, triceps extension, or single leg RDL. And it's like total body, chest, back, shoulders, biceps, triceps, legs. If they did 3 sets of 15, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, plus a little bit of like core balance reactive stuff, plus their warm up here, it's actually not bad. I mean, it's only 9 sets per week, which we see like ideally want to be between 10 and 20. But like for a senior client, this is a great way to maintain general fitness levels, right? Which is exactly what they're going for. That's what we're behind for. Like the 10 to 20 rule really does apply much better to like people who are bodybuilders, athletes, people who are like trying to improve their fitness levels, and reach like specific fitness goals. A lot of seniors are just trying to experience like health benefits. Well, this is a really good routine that they could do 3 days per week. Then maybe we get it a little bit more complicated next month. We build the exact same style of routine. Maybe we use the same skeleton, change up a couple of the versions of stretches. Instead of prone iso abs, we go side iso abs. Instead of single leg lift jump, we make just a couple little changes there, and we write 2 of these. We have a workout A and a workout B. And then they have it's the same schedule. Monday they go to A, Wednesday they go to B, Friday they go back to A, and then next week they flip it around, B, A, B. So then we do that for 30 days. And then our 3rd month of training, we write them like a 3rd routine. And so it's like they're doing workout A, workout B, and workout C, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we kept the exact same 3 sets, 15 slow rep, and we just swapped out some of these exercises here. There's plenty of exercises in your book to even facilitate that, So that would be a very, very simple approach to experience. And then once it's like, hey, you're crushing it, you're killing it, it's time for us to progress you. It's time to like try something new. We've been doing these total body routines where we're doing just a little bit of training volume for each body part every day consistently throughout the week. Let's see if we can break down and just wear out a singular body part, give it lots of time to recover before we come back to it. And let's start doing like a training split where we actually do, maybe a push day or a pull day. And that's your A and your B, or maybe it's like we just did a second ago, the chest and the shoulders, or I'm sorry, the chest and the back plus the shoulders and the legs. You can do chest and shoulders. That's actually fun too. In fact, I actually like chest shoulders a lot pairing together. And then like back and legs together. I actually think those work really well too.
Yeah, the shoulders and the chest. I seen one kid, bro. He was doing like side lateral raises, right, with dumbbells. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he do a lot of them, and then he would go bench press. Like he did a lot.
Raises first.
Yeah, and he was a youngster. Look real good, and I told him like, hey, like if you keep doing that, bro, like your shoulders are just gonna, like your chest's not gonna be strong enough, like. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Another general rule of thumb, and it doesn't say this in your book, but another general rule of thumb, you always want to work your biggest muscles first and then work your way to the smaller ones over time.
Yeah, because I told him like your chest is gonna get bigger if you do the bench press first. But dude, this kid was like a youngster, so I don't even think
that's the thing. Like at his age, he's like, whatever, and he's just gonna blow up, you know?
He listened to me, but
yeah, newbies, they can get away with anything they want.
Yeah, they can really well.
All right, so you know, for seniors, like I said, it's going to be about 1 to 3 sets, about 8 to 20 repetitions. So you'll notice like we're going about as low as 8 here. We're not really going any lower than that. That means that we're basically you know, we're not even getting into the bottom ranges of hypertrophy. We're pretty much you know, staying, if we look at the OPT model, actually I just had a picture of it up here. If we have it, we're probably going like somewhere just between phase 2 and phase 3 for the most part. But other than that, like, honestly, we're pretty much just staying in that bottom section of the OPT model, because again, a lot of seniors are not really putting a special emphasis on, you know, max strength or hypertrophy, you know, or muscle gain or, you know, explosiveness. So generally, we're going to stay in phases 1 and 2. We might do a little bit of phase 3 stuff at like the higher repetition ranges. And the idea is that we're progressing towards free sitting or standing. Again, one of our priorities with seniors is to keep them upright for the rest of their lives. So we're trying to keep them walking, right? So rather than picking a lot of like exercises that have them laying down, we're going to pick a lot of exercises that at least have them sit upright. And then if ideally not against like a support, you know, they're free sitting upright or standing. And then really ideally standing on one leg, you know. Special considerations you always want to take into account. We kind of talked about these already, but we want to make sure that our clients are breathing properly. We want to avoid using that Valsalva maneuver. Now, I love the Valsalva maneuver. I'm a big fan of using it specifically for my workouts. Like in general, I really like it. And what it is, if you're wondering, is it is a specific way to breathe while you are powerlifting. So have you guys ever seen like a you know, people use, I mean, obviously I'm sure you've seen this, you might even have one yourself, a weightlifting belt, right? So okay, hold on a second, did I just see a corgi weightlifting belt? That is hilarious. Look at that. All right, now that everyone's seen it, we can move on.
Hey, where is that? What website was that, bro?
I have no idea. $60 is not a bad price too. Two Pood, I've never heard of. That is incredible.
Let's go.
God, oh my God, there's a Stormtrooper one. This is the best website I've ever seen. There's a Mandalorian one. Oh my God. All right, nope. I gotta scroll down or I'm gonna do this all day. So these are weightlifting belts, right? Now, a lot of people look at these and they're like, oh, they're wearing a belt to make up for their spinal stability, right? It's there to like hold your spine in place, right? Mm-hmm. That is not what they're for. They are actually to give you a cue. They're there to give you something to push out against. So when you wear a weightlifting belt, you're actually supposed to breathe into it. You're supposed to lock it up, and then you push with your stomach into the belt. And what that does is that activates your transverse abdominis, which you'll remember is that big webbing that surrounds our entire abdominals. This creates intra-abdominal pressure. So, and look at it wraps. I mean, look at how much of this there is. There's all this stuff wrapping around. It creates this. A lot of people will sometimes refer to it as a can. It's like it's like a jar, like holding everything in place, right? Meanwhile, you've got all the stuff in your low back that you can activate, like your multifidus. You get your pelvic floor muscles, you get your diaphragm, internal obliques. You know, you're creating a box surrounding your spine, keeping it safe. So when you wear a weightlifting belt, it allows you to press into it, which then it presses back because it can't expand that much, creating even further pressure. And that's why they're so effective.
I see some people use the belt like for when they're doing like chest and everything. That's a good idea.
Maybe. I mean, if you need the abdomen, I don't know. You would never catch me wearing it during a bench press. But I have heard some people who like when you get it. That's the thing. My knowledge of like the super advanced powerlifting, like strongman stuff
Mm.
is rather limited because it kind of falls outside of the range of like, just like I don't know much about gymnastics. I mean, gymnasts break a lot of our rules all the time.
Yeah.
Yet they are Olympic athletes, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's where you start to get into like sport specific stuff,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm like, I don't know, is that better? To me, it doesn't make much sense, you know?
But
But
for
again,
like,
I'm not bench pressing thousands of pounds.
yeah, or for like deadlifting, like I only use my belt when I'm deadlifting.
Yeah.
Because
so
back, like I'm scared to throw on my back, you know. And,
sure. But here's the thing, it's not there to stabilize your back. It's there to give you something to press into so that you can stabilize your back. But yeah, I think it's great for deadlifting. I think it's great for squatting.
So, okay, so how you said, like, take a breath into your diaphragm or below the diaphragm, I guess, right?
Yes. So I'm going to show you the Valsalva maneuver.
Shut up. Oh, man.
So your Valsalva maneuver, this will work. Oh, actually, no. I want to find like a weightlifter. Perfect. That's what I showed last time.
If this is you, if you're one of the lifters that does that, there's only one solution. Don't do that. All about the holding of your breath.
Oop, hold on. I need to share the sound. There we go. Okay.
A closed glottis and with tightly of your breath against a closed glottis and with tightly contracted abs provides stability to the lift. And stability is a wonderful thing to have when picking up heavy weights and when setting them back down again. Breath is stability, so don't blow out that breath. Don't lose that Valsalva at the top of the lift. Wait until you set it back down, then blow out your air. So
what he means by that, right? It's and you can watch my stomach here, right? Like if I'm taking a big deep breath in, right? You can already see like it's going to pooch out a little bit. But then if I close my mouth, like purse my lips, right? And I breathe like through that, there's going to be an increased pressure that's like trying to come out here, but it's also going to come back down and fill that out. So if I go, when I close my lips, when I try to breathe out, see how my stomach pooched out even further? Right? It pooched out while I was breathing. That's why you wear the belt. The belt gives you something to push into, which pushes even further back, creating even more stability, right? You're filling your entire abdominal cavity with lots of breath. And that's a really great way to lift when you are lifting very, 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 very heavy. So basically you would go and like take a big deep breath in, grab your weight, and then exhale as you are lifting against the weight. And that creates all the pressure, making sure that your back will stay flat, keep you nice and safe.
Okay. Yeah, because I never knew whether to breathe in or breathe out or hold my breath or, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thomas, you had a question?
Yes, quick question. So on the exhale, he was saying you exhale when you after you have put it down, or on the release of putting it down.
There's sort of two parts to this, right? Ideally, if you are doing like, if it's not like super heavyweight, and you're like, let's say you're going down and like you're grabbing it and you come up, right? And then you go back down and you come up, right? If you're going at a pace like that, you're probably fine to just, take a big, go down, take a big deep breath in, exhale, and then you can do another one and then drop it back down. But generally what most people do is they will exhale against the weight and inhale as they're going back down.
Right. That's normally what I do.
Inhale. Yeah.
Well, you can kind of think about it maybe like how people scream and yell when they're pushing the weight.
Yeah.
Well, like
that's actually why we do that.
Yeah, when they're screaming, they're like pushing out all their breath. And then when they're bringing the weight back down, like when you're bench pressing, you're bringing the bar back down, you're getting ready to get more breath so you could scream again.
Yeah. Isn't that what's kind of funny, right? Like, it's like our body knows physiologically to kind of do this naturally. That's why we're like, ah! And you don't just like breathe out. You do that like, You're pushing against yourself, right?
It's funny because I found a lot of people that I work out with that don't work out or that don't have like a athletic background. They don't breathe right.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what I feel like I am. I feel like I hold my breath at the wrong times, or like, but probably honestly, not. It's like subconscious, I guess.
Yeah, honestly, make one of those people lift. People who don't work out, they also generally lift at like pretty low intensities, right? Because they don't really know what they're doing. They don't really know what their numbers are. They don't really know like how to pick the right weight. So they can get away with it because they're not lifting super heavy. You make one of those people try to like lift like a car, you know, like, or lift something really heavy, like just off the ground, or like even like while they're moving or something, they will naturally tighten their ab and they'll do this like, and like that is totally like physiology, like instinct, like coming in where it's like, I know that this will help create spinal stability, so their brain does it. But we do forget. So and here's what's so funny. I mean, I'm talking about all this Valsalva stuff today. The PowerPoint started with do not do the Valsalva maneuver.
Well, because that's because they're older though, right?
Exactly, because this does increase your pressure like crazy. I mean, it's all about increasing pressure, right? We're creating pressure on purpose. That's great if you're young and have good blood vessels. As we're older, you know, it's a little bit more risky. So yeah, Valsalva maneuver, I'm a really big fan of. I need to get a new weightlifting belt myself. Actually, I've been like raw lifting for quite a while now, which has been great. But like I definitely the other day was like, man, I was just like having trouble like getting the bar up, and I was like, I need to get a new belt.
Valsalva during the warm-ups. The weight is lighter at this point, so you can spare the mental bandwidth necessary for this endeavor.
Oh, this is funny. He's like talking about like in the beginning you don't necessarily have to, but it's like as you get into like that heavy weight, right? That's where it becomes really important. So you're gonna see him take a big deep breath, grab the bar, and then exhale as he comes up.
By performing the Valsalva with your mouth open, you can do it just as well.
Oh, he's doing that version. So you can do that with your mouth open as well. I think it's actually way harder to do. But I think he might be talking about like practicing, where like if you do it this way, you have to like almost breathe like that. You almost have to do this like, you know, which I don't like doing in public personally. If you have a home gym and you want to practice that technique, I don't think it's necessarily bad. But you can even see, like, I mean, just the best example I can give you that really helped me click this is like, right? Like you can see your stomach push out. Now, I actually disagree with what I'm about to say, but this is why a lot of people believe that, you know, you get plenty of like abdominal strength from doing like squats and deadlifts, and you don't need ab exercises. I disagree with that, but I get where it's coming from. It's getting from this place of like, you will feel your abs turn on when you do Valsalva. And if you're doing like heavy squats and heavy deadlifts, you're going to do Valsalva. So it made a lot of people go, oh, well, that's plenty of ab work. And I'm like,
no. One more quick question. Is there any truth to feeling, or because I usually tell people when they're breathing, they'll feel stronger on the exhale, especially once they're pushing. Is there any truth to that, or does that go back to what you're saying? The stability makes them feel stronger.
I think it's a feel stronger thing, but I don't think that what you said and what I'm saying are actually different at all. I think the strength is a little like, you know, okay, I guess maybe the difference is strength versus force generation, which is basically the same thing. But yeah, I think that they'll be able to have more strength. They won't necessarily have more force generation in that one muscle. You know what I mean? Like individually, but as like stronger, they'll feel stronger for sure. Just like in the same way that like when I put my weightlifting shoes on, I feel a little bit stronger just because it gives me a slight elevation and means that I need just a little bit less ankle dorsiflexion. And it gives me like a strong base of support. So I'm like, oh, I have way more confidence psychologically. I'm turned on, you know, like, you know, in the same way that warming up makes you stronger, because it's just like, it gives your brain, you know, context. You're like, oh, I'm not in traffic anymore. Oh, I'm not work anymore. I'm at the gym. this is where I need to turn on my fight or flight nervous system, you know?
Got you.
So I think those are the same thing, honestly.
Right.
Yeah. That was a good discussion though. So for the Valsalva, inhale during the eccentric portion and forcefully exhale slowly through pursed lips and during the concentric portion, and that can create intra-abdominal pressure. Okay. Other considerations with seniors, so avoid that thing that we just talked about, how great it is, with seniors at least. And then SMR or static stretches sometimes can be intolerable. Sometimes like static stretches just hurt and ache, you know, it is pulling, right? And if your client just can't handle that, then you can do slow rhythmic stretching, which is a term that I hate. Do active isolated stretches instead. That's what slow rhythmic is. Oh, it actually doesn't say slow. No, it says slow rhythmic. There you go. This is me being me. It says slow rhythmic in the PowerPoint, which I hate that term. Do active isolated with your seniors instead. And that's me writing that instead of slow rhythmic. The reason I don't like the term slow rhythmic is, to me, that means like bouncing. That's what it sounds like to me. That's different than 1, 2, and you get a rhythm. 1, 2. That's what they mean. It just doesn't sound like it. But yeah, do active isolated stretches instead. If they have osteoporosis, SMR probably needs to be avoided. Not because like SMR is bad, but foam rolling is probably really dangerous. Just because, like, you know, you're putting a bone, you know, and you're so we don't want to do that. And then if they do have arthritis, you're going to stay somewhere in the 8 to 12 repetition range. You don't want to do ultra high repetitions because it can cause like inflammation around the joint. So we talked about the OPT model a lot over the last couple of days. We talked about the 3 levels: stabilization level, strength level, power level. But, and Thomas, I know you've seen this before plenty of times. But today, Mir, we're going to break down the phases. And there's a couple little special rules that I haven't talked about when it comes to 2 specific phases of the OPT. Phase 2 and phase 5, they've got some unique rules that we've kind of left out of the conversation for the last couple of days. So first level you've got is the stabilization level, right? And the stabilization level it only has 1 phase within it. The level is just simply called stabilization. The phase is technically called stabilization endurance. And the idea here behind the stabilization level is that, you know, it's designed to prepare the body for the higher levels of training that are to come. You know what I mean? Like it's prepping you for the strength level. It's teaching you how to do pushes and pulls and hinges and presses, you know, like it's teaching you how to do all these specific, you know, patterns. In fact, it's one of the things that like I also do that NASM has been incorporating into their new text. This is one thing that I've been doing for years, but NASM's finally catching up to me. No, he said extremely arrogantly. I do like to teach my clients like the big 5, right? Push, pull, press, which is up overhead, hinge, and squat, you know? Those are sort of, in my opinion, like the 5 key patterns. Yeah. Like, what's that?
Is hinging like deadlifting?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So there's a little bit of a difference between like, you know, this, oh, my legs.
Yeah.
And this, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I was like trying to hinge. I was like, oh, my hamstrings are tight. I did not know until I knew. So that's, yeah, I do try to like teach those specific patterns, but I'll just do stabilization versions of that, right? Like a single leg press, a kneeling row, a stability ball, you know, chest press, which is a push. So that's, you know, that is our first level. We're going to prepare our body. Then we can get into like the really heavy stuff later on. We can stack all those plates onto the barbell, you know, once we get to the strength level. Or even just like I'll do barbells with clients in the stabilization level occasionally, but it'll do, you know, single leg versions, right? So maybe I have like a barbell here in hand, and then I'm just doing like a single leg RDL, right? Where I kick that other leg back, and I take myself straight down just like this, and then bring it back up, you know?
Mhm.
But I think that works better with dumbbells because then you can actually drive that leg. Instead of just coming up to neutral, you can also come all the way up to here. And again, we just need to have this habit of pulling that toe up, you know? We need more of that all the time. So the first level of training is really great at prepping the body for the higher levels, decreasing low back pain, reducing your risk of falls because it is all about stabilization. And that can increase your clients' like level of independence, which is huge for senior clients, right? They don't want to rely on anybody to help them walk around. So really great phase of training for senior clients. Great way to correct muscle imbalances, great way to improve joint stabilization, core musculature. It also is relatively high repetition, which is very good for your cardiorespiratory system. And it's all about, like I said, those proper movement patterns. So when you're doing this, you want to pick stabilization level exercises like a single leg cable row, single leg overhead press. And you want to make sure you're picking the right acute variables. So that's where the big chart comes in. I'm going to maximize this because it is massive. Let's go ahead and zoom in here to the blue section. And I'm going to minimize all of us. So all of our stabilization rules, we've seen them individually until today, right? Like we've been looking at these as we've gone along all week. Well, all of this week and last week. We've got corrective flexibility. So SMR and static stretches. I will say, you guys probably noticed at one point there is one other thing as well. Uh-oh. I'm forgetting my alt code. 140. Nope. Okay. Well, whatever the bullet point is. So there is the neuromuscular or PNF stretching as well. But remember, that is something that Mo's going to teach you. That's the NASM corrective exercise version. So for today, I'm just going to go ahead and delete that because we're not even going to see it in the regular textbook. 1 to 3 sets of 30 seconds, hold each. And we're going to do stage 1 cardio. So that's zone 1. We're only going to put them at 65 to 75% of their heart rate max. You know, that's steady state cardio. They're not doing any interval training or anything like that. We're going to pick core stabilization exercises, balance stabilization, and plyometric. And we're going to make sure that we pick the right reps and stuff. SAQ, we're going to go ahead and forget about in a senior client, although just to say it, I actually love SAQ exercises, speed ladders in particular, I love with my seniors. I don't do them as if I'm doing speed training. I just use them as like a really great way to work on like footwork and gain their confidence back. I used to have this old lady. She wasn't just an old lady. She was like a little old biddy, you know, like she was your stereotypical like white perm, drove a giant Lincoln that was like a 10,000 pound car, like made of like wrought iron. She would get dressed up to come to the gym, like she'd wear like a nice jacket, like all this stuff. And I used to train her all the time, and she loved the speed ladder, and she would just get on there, and she was like, normally she was like a shuffler, she like walked like this. And so it was constantly like, I loved getting her to like walk heel to toe in the speed ladder and just do these like speed ladder drills where, she would do like hopscotch essentially. And it helped her gain her confidence. I'd like to say that I got her like, full on walking again. I'm sure there was some improvement, but she was tremendously old. But anyway, so that we can do SAQ with seniors, but we are skipping it for today. I'll teach you guys this stuff next mod. And then we got the resistance training, resistance stabilization exercises for somewhere between 1 and 3 sets, 12 to 20 reps at a slow tempo, 50 to 70% of their 1 rep max, 0 to 90 seconds of rest. Now, these numbers, these 50 to 70%, they're never perfect, but it's fairly close. Now, do you actually need to do 1 rep max training in order to figure that out? Not necessarily, if you're doing like a very linear progression where it's like you are going up by a certain percentage every week when you drop reps or move reps around, that's very linear. You might want to math that out if you're doing that. Honestly, I use like a 1 rep max calculator, right? So for instance, like the other day, I just switched routines, which is why I'm so sore. And I was trying to figure out like, okay, I need to move, I was doing, 205 for 3 on this one particular lift, but I want to do it for 8 reps now. So I punch it into the calculator, right? 205, I did 3 reps. So then I scroll down here and it shows me, I know that's that's not, the camera's not picking it up. But 8 reps was like 180 pounds. So so I threw 180 pounds on the bar and did 8 reps. It actually worked out pretty well in this example. But other times I've done that and it doesn't work out so well. It's a little bit different for each thing, and it gets less accurate the higher the reps are. But it's still, I really recommend getting one of those calculators. It basically just did the math, because 8 reps corresponds to I think is it 80 or 70? Is it 80%? Yeah.
What's it called? What's this calculator called?
It's just a 1 rep max calculator.
Okay, so it's an app on the phone, eh?
Yeah, 80%. Yeah. So it's 80% of my 1 rep max. It told me to use 180 pounds. You can get it. Yeah. That's the Android version. I'm sure there's Apple versions as well. Just type in 1 rep max in the App Store and it'll be enough to pull it up.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool, because it's like a goal, when you don't want to do your 1 rep max. And
no, they're super helpful. It's a super helpful thing. Like I said, it's not always perfect. There are so many times where I'm like, like me, for instance, I tend to have more endurance than I have strength. So like when I'm like, if I can do something, I'm like, I did this many for 12, and then I calculate, I'm like, what should I do for 5? I'll go try to lift that weight. And I'm like, the math says this should work, but I cannot pick that up, like, and that's, sometimes there's some energy system stuff there as well, but it's a general rule of thumb. That's what these percentages of 1 rep max represent. Yeah. So, this is sort of how we're going to do this. So if we decide to like sort of write a full routine based around this, right? Here's like an example stabilization version for a client, who is trying to develop like stability, right? So let's say it's January, right? Let's say it's just the beginning of the year, right? So we're going to start with their calves, hip flexors, and lats, because that's what's tight on them. We're SMRing those, and then we static stretch their calves, static stretch their hip flexors, static stretch their lats, get them on the treadmill. You'll notice that this isn't stage 1 cardio. It's just gentle, like 50 to 60% heart rate max, nothing crazy there. And then we do a core stabilization exercise, balance stabilization, and reactive stabilization. So it's the prone iso abs, the single leg lift and chop, and the box jump to stabilization. 3 sets, because for all these, it's 1 to 4, 1 to 3, 1 to 3. We did 12 reps for the plank. So that's going to be like, I'm going to say like hold each rep for 2 seconds, right? So they are going to do planks for reps, right? They're going to take themselves up into a plank and then relax. Take themselves up into a plank and then relax. So we are doing sort of pause, release planks there for 12 repetitions, because again, somewhere between 12 and 20. For the lift and chop, I'm saying 6 reps each, because you can see over here, it's 6 to 10 for single-sided, and the single leg lifted chop is definitely single-sided. Slow tempo for both of those, right? Slow and slow. And then for the box jump to stabilization, 3 sets of 8, and then tempo says 3 to 5 seconds. That stands for 3 to 5 seconds upon landing. So they're doing a box jump to stabilization. 5 to 8 reps. So I did 8 reps, 3 second hold, 3 to 5 second hold on landing. And that is the movement prep. And then for the resistance, I just did total body. Ball squat, curl to press, stability ball chest press, stability ball row. Combo number 1 on the ball, that's that YTA that we did last time, right? Mm-hmm. That says 15. I should say like that's 5 reps for Y for each. 5 Y. There we go. So that's I should put that and I'll make it a little more specific. And then stability ball tricep extensions, right? Getting the triceps, and then bicep, single leg bicep curl, and then that single leg RDL. This does say 3 sets of 15. I should probably change that to like 16. I will say 8 reps. Yeah, so there we go. Right now, I've got a very clear, total body routine. I get my client do this 3 days per week. And that's the perfect stabilization routine, falling well within all these normal ranges, right? 15 reps is right in the middle here. 3 sets, right? Slow tempos here. Now you'll notice I did write 4, 2, 1. That means I'm being really specific about it. Whereas up here I wrote slow. I will say for total body exercises, you don't have to do like the full on 4, 2, 1 tempo. If you think about like doing a ball squat curl to press, that would look like this, right? That'd be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 1 rep. Next, like, that's a little silly. I personally don't do that with my clients. I would just have them generally move, kind of slow as they move through the whole thing, rather than counting out the entire time. You know what I mean? That's how I would say it. So I just write slow. But for the other ones, it's like, no, I want your chest press to be like slow, pause, press, slow, pause, press, right? And you'll notice we can pick 0 to 90 seconds of rest here. So I put 0 for everything, and then 60 seconds at the end. I might put down here in the coaching tips, perform all exercises as a circuit. And there, now my client knows, oh, okay, so we're going to go through this whole thing, nice and slow. And then I get to rest at the end and then start again. So that is going to feel like cardio, right? That's going to be a really good cardiorespiratory routine, actually. So that is the stabilization version of things. And that's pretty basic. That's pretty easy to understand. And like I said, Mir, these are the numbers you want to get memorized. They'll say which the following repetition schemes is most appropriate for a client in the stabilization level. It's 12 to 20, or which of the following intensities is most appropriate for a client in 50 to 70. It's more flashcard stuff, but like I said, this is the stuff that we revisit every mod. Imagine you're already getting a little familiar with it.
Kind of.
Yeah. But it is a lot. It is a lot, and it's about to get even more, unfortunately. Until now, we've only had to look at levels. We got 5 phases. So it is a lot, but that's, you got 9 months, Yeah. Well, I guess 7.5 months now, but so strength level. Strength level, second level of the OPT model, right? So that means exercise selection wise, we're picking strength exercises throughout this whole thing. Then the idea here is that we are focused on building on our foundation we already built, right? We are improving our, prime mover strength and a little bit more endurance here. So stabilization, endurance, we're going to talk about that in the strength endurance phase. Peak work capacity, joint stabilization, lean body mass, if we're talking about hypertrophy, and then peak force output and motor unit recruitment when we're talking about strength. So we do see 3 phases here, Again, primarily adults will stay in phase 2, or older adults will stay in phase 2. But today we're going to go through all of them. So when we talk about phase 2, and this is where the PowerPoint really kind of just was like only doing phase 2 here. So let's talk about phase 2 here real quick. So phase 2 is called strength endurance. And you'll notice that title is really similar to stabilization endurance, like phase 1 was called, right? So strength endurance, I like to describe this. This is not true, but I like to describe it this way. It's more like it's like phase 1.5. It's not necessarily a full level 2 situation here. We're kind of easing our way out of stabilization before we fully commit to the idea of strength. So there's a couple rules that you got to follow in the strength endurance phase. So strength endurance will utilize a combination of strength and stabilization exercises in order to enhance your muscular endurance through using supersets. So there are 2 rules, Mir, for strength endurance. First rule, you need to do a superset. And a superset is 2 exercises back to back, right?
Yeah.
That's the definition of superset. But a strength endurance superset is 2 exercises back to back, 1 strength exercise first, 1 stabilization exercise second.
Okay.
So that's our first rule. And then the second rule is they must be for the same body part, or at least they need to be similar biomechanic motions.
So it'd be like a standing barbell press and then like a 1 leg military press, right?
My God, you killed it. Yeah, that is
Thank
a
you.
perfect example. Wow. I think you may be the first person to ever do that with only 1 sentence of explanation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. I've done this job for a couple of years now, so
You're
that's
blowing me up, bro. You're blowing me up.
good. So yes, strength first, stabilization second, with little to no rest in between. Don't rest at all.
Hey, is also a stable. Okay, another stabilization, but I don't know if this would be right, but like let's say you're doing dumbbell press, like chest press, with 2 dumbbells, and then you could drop 1 and do 1 hand. Would that be but not really, huh? Because you're not standing.
So it would be good. Here's what I'd say. Well, no, you could still do it, but you would move to a ball instead.
Okay, all right.
Or even just doing 1 is actually very unstable. But here's where I have a little bit of a problem with it. And your book would say that's a perfect example. Here's where I don't like that though.
Yeah.
Now you're starting to run into the problem of like you're using both arms, that's really heavy. Now the reason we're getting endurance is because we're taking no rest. So if you do 1 arm,
you're resting the other arm.
Resting over here.
Yeah, okay.
That I do like that, but I would say instead alternating.
Okay, all right.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, that makes better sense. And then on the bar.
Okay. And you would do like a chest press on the bench and then just roll yourself onto a ball.
Yeah.
And go right.
Okay. Oh, that sounds like fun, actually.
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Have you ever done, Thomas, Mir, have you guys ever done drop sets?
Oh, all the time. Yeah.
Yes.
All the time.
So this will feel like a drop set. It's not a drop set. They're calling it a superset, but it feels just like a drop set where it's like, I've got 2 heavy dumbbells and I got 2 light dumbbells. I'm on the bench. We're doing a bench chest press with my heavy dumbbells. I set them down, I get on the ball, and I do a slow stability ball chest press with my light dumbbells.
Yeah. You see, I used to do that with French press, but with a dumbbell. But then I asked you, like, should I do that? And you were like, no, because it's only 1 joint. To drop set it. Because I'll pick up like the 100 and I'll do like, behind my back French press with the dumbbell. Then I'll drop it and pick up the 50. But my triceps never ever got sore from doing that. I think it was just a waste of energy.
I said don't do that because it's only 1 joint.
Yeah, like it was only 1 muscle.
And was it related to developing your power?
No, it was back when we were talking about something else.
I'm sure I must have had a reason to say that.
Yeah. No, you made a good point though, because like my triceps never got sore from doing that. Instead, I started doing a different. I started doing a laying tricep extension with the cannonball, with the kettlebell.
Yeah. And that helped a lot.
Oh yeah, bro. I could actually see like the back filling in now. Yeah. No, but we were talking about it for a while. It was a while ago.
I gotta remember why I said that. Because honestly, that's a fine superset, but I'm wondering if there's something else behind it, where it's just like, because I do like the French press. I'm not sure I love the behind the head version.
Yeah, that's the one I usually do. Yeah,
I prefer the laying down version.
Okay.
because it's just easier to keep your elbows in alignment.
And yeah.
But I'm wondering what would have made. So let's look at strength endurance. So here's the thing. When it comes to movement prep, notice how there's no differences here in hypertrophy and there's no difference in max strength. Your movement prep is the same. That's all level based. That's what we've been looking at until now, right? So if I had a client doing movement prep in strength endurance or hypertrophy or max strength, it would be identical every time. I wouldn't need to make any changes there. Oh, shoot, hold on. That's the wrong one. So here's my client, same client. This is February 1st. We're going to do an example version as if somebody is moving through, January to February to March to April to May. We're going to go through 5 months of training here. So it's the same client, calves, hip flexors, lats. But now they're going to do an active calf stretch, an active kneeling hip flexor stretch, and active lat stretch instead of static versions. 2 sets of everything, 10 reps each, hold each rep for about 2 seconds, right? Then we move into our movement prep. That's the stability ball crunch now instead of a plank. So they are moving their spine. Single leg RDL, which, by the way, do you recognize that exercise? That exercise was our stabilization level leg exercise. Now it is a movement prep balance exercise for the strength level, which makes sense considering that my client is in a more advanced style of training. So we took something from the resistance section, which used to be like the meat and potatoes of our workout. Now it's a warm up,
Yeah.
Or maybe not a warm up, but a movement prep.
Yeah.
So that's the single leg RDL, 3 sets, and that's 10 reps. I should put each here. And then repeat squat jumps, right? Last time they were doing the box jump to stabilization. This time they're doing a squat jump and they're just repeating. I could do a box jump up and down if I want to, but I like repeat squat jumps. So repeating tempo, nice and, repetitive and kind of boring, no pause between reps. Then we did total body again, but you will notice I took out the biceps and the triceps because this workout would be really long otherwise. And here's our superset style here, right? So they're going to do straight sets for all the movements, perform all supersets before moving on to the next pair. So we've got the bench press, which is a chest strength exercise, paired with the stability ball chest press, which is the chest stabilization. Then we went into the back, bent over barbell row, into a stability ball row, a military press into a stability ball seated shoulder press. I could do single leg shoulder press. I could do whatever version, barbell squat into a ball squat. Now, for strength endurance, if we look at all of that was covering this. But then once we get to the resistance section, we do resistance strength with resistance stabilization, 2 to 4 sets, 8 to 12 reps each. We use a 2-0-2 tempo for our strength movement. So you can just kind of move at a generally, medium pace for the strength. And then we go back to that really slow tempo for stabilization. And then that's 70 to 80% of your 1 rep max on the strength movement. And again, it's 50 to 70% of your 1 rep max for the stabilization. Although honestly, like once you do this, these numbers will fly right out the window. Just try to do as much as you can with the stabilization. And that's coming from somebody who has worked on endurance for years. So that is our versions here. So you'll notice I wrote 3 sets for everything, 12 reps for everything. And then it's a 2-0-2 tempo for the first movement every time. And then a 4-2-1 tempo for every movement for the second one. 0 seconds of rest on the first, 60 seconds rest on the second. Now, when I'm writing this, I normally like to leave a blank space in the template to show that like you do those 2 together, you finish all of those sets, then you move on to the next body part. But I didn't do that in this version. I just kind of wrote them all together because there just wasn't space, which is why I put it in the coaching tips. Perform all supersets before moving on to the next pair. So these 2 are paired, do them all. These 2 are paired, do them all, right? So we did chest, back, shoulders, and legs. I took out the arms because otherwise this workout would be way too long. Now, again, I don't have a workout B version of this, but I could just do this total body 3 times per week, right? That is, plenty of sets, plenty of training volume as a general total body routine. And then you'll notice on our cool down, we just did these static stretches instead of the active stretches.
Yeah, and also what I like about like having a program like that, like a full body, you could always start at the bottom of the list on Monday. You know?
Yeah, you can switch it up if you need to.
Depending on what they want to get stronger at. Or
for years I used to always do my legs first and then do upper body after that. But lately I've been switching it because I get all the I get hot from doing the upper body, and then my legs are really loosened up by the time I get to the lower body.
Yeah.
And that's been something I've been doing over the last couple of years. It was like a big change for me.
Yeah.
I like it, and who knows, maybe someday I'll go back. But
do you ever just do like one body part, or do you like to do full body all the time?
I have not done a one body part workout in a couple of years, actually.
Okay.
I probably should. It'd be a good way to because that's the thing. Now it's well, we also know, we know that because I don't want to run into junk volume. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do that a lot. I do that a lot. Well, I'll look at myself in the mirror one day and I'll be like, oh my God, my traps. And I'll go, just do traps. You know what I'm saying? And yeah.
That's the thing though. If it's a different enough training stimulus,
yeah,
it may be the thing that does result in extra growth. So I'm thinking about it actually, beginning of the year. I might do it in January, because I got the rest of my year planned out already.
You got your whole year planned out?
Yeah, I do that every January. I write a full year. Yeah.
Wow. That's actually good. So you don't deviate from your goals, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, I change stuff up, once I get there, but I'm really notorious. This is a problem that I used to have. I love writing routines. I think it's really fun. I was totally that guy, people who play D&D, they make characters. I loved making characters.
Yeah.
And so I just knew I would get I'd see something online and be like, oh, I need to change this up. And I would change. And now it's I don't want to do that anymore. So I just write everything out in the beginning, and then I takes all the decision making out, and that way I don't get scattered.
Yeah.
All right, so let's look at the hypertrophy stuff. So again, senior clients, you're going to do hypertrophy, maybe a little, but generally you'll do, if you are trying to get them to lift heavier, but you aren't going to go all the way down to the full high intensity hypertrophy stuff. Hypertrophy is the jack of all trades, master of none section of the OPT. It's a little bit of endurance, but not as much as strength endurance or stabilization. And it's a little bit of strength, but not as much as max strength or power. It's right in the middle of everything. But it is an extremely high amount of training volume, which is what results in maximum muscular damage, which is really good for, growth. And that's our whole goal here. So, again, you'll notice my warm-up, it's exactly the same. I actually did that on purpose. I would probably change it up if I were really writing a real routine for a client. But in this version, I literally kept it the same. Same thing with their movement prep. I kept the movement prep identical in phase 2 and phase 3. Again, I wouldn't do that in real life. I'd change it up so they get a new training stimulus. But I wanted you guys to be able to see that strength endurance to hypertrophy to max strength, they're all the same. And so let's take a look at here's a total body version. So I did a total body exercise, chest, back, and then I got back to the biceps, triceps, and legs. You'll notice these are all very stable exercises. The deadlift to calf press, right? The bench press, the bent over barbell row, that's 2 legs on the ground. Military press, very stable. Preacher curl is seating on a machine. Skull crushers is sitting on a solid bench, and then a barbell squat is 2 legs planted. So all strength movements strength movements. And now for my movement prep, or for my resistance section, anywhere from 3 to 5 sets. So I went right in the middle this time with 4. Anywhere from 6 to 12 reps. So again, I went right in the middle with 8, which, by the way, with a senior client, 8 is about as low as you're going to go. Hypertrophy can get as low as 6, which is really the heavy hypertrophy. but it doesn't have to be. So for seniors, it's kind of like we kind of stop it a little early. Like, again, that's an exception to a rule. 202 tempo, so medium tempo for everything, right? I wrote medium for the total body exercise, and then I put 202 for everything else. And then 0 to 75 to 85%. So that 85% corresponds with about 5 to 6 reps. 75 corresponds with about like 10 to 12 reps in general. And then 0 to 60 seconds of rest. So we're just taking 1 minute of rest on here. This is the type of routine. If I had a client doing this and like they're really moving efficiently from exercise to exercise, this is the type of routine that will make you a little nauseous come the end of the workout. You know, when you get that like nausea feeling, that's lactic acid leaking into your bloodstream, making your digestive system get lactic acid, which is not really used to. So you start to feel a little like queasy. This is maximum lactic acid production right here, which is great for muscle growth, because the more lactic acid we create, the more acid sits on our muscles, the more it eats it, the more cellular damage, the bigger muscles, right? That's why it's hypertrophy. But I mean, it's literally 60 seconds of rest, which means lactic acid starts to leak out, it starts to get processed and diminished, but then it's only 60 seconds. So you're right back into making more of it. And your body's like, ugh, we just made a lot of this crap, you know? You're doing a medium tempo with no pausing, no lactic acid leaking there. That's why this is associated with hypertrophy. And then this is mostly for Thomas, because we haven't talked about this, Mir, but I will say it is mostly sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. It's like the make larger, puffier cells rather than more rods. If we drop the reps down to like closer to 6 and maybe did 5 sets, then we'd be getting, and then maybe, you know, it is only 60 seconds of rest there, but if I were to take it, maybe, you know, break the rules a little bit, get into like 90 seconds or maybe even 2 minutes. Now I'm still doing very much hypertrophy training, but I'm getting more into that myofibril hypertrophy. I'm making more rods to, you know, stronger fibers. And that's what we're going to start to really see in our next phase, when we get into max strength. So max strength, again, movement prep, you're going to notice totally identical. Nothing changed at all. In fact, I didn't even change the routine when I got into the max strength stuff. You'll notice it's a deadlift to calf press again. It's a bench press again, a barbell row, a military press, and a barbell squat. Again, I did it on purpose. It's not me being lazy. You know, if I were actually training somebody with this routine, then it would be me being lazy. But no, we kept the same exercises to really show you guys that it's the same choices. In a real world, I'd probably change these up a little bit. Although, if I only had them doing it for 4 weeks, maybe I wouldn't. Probably would keep the exercises the same. I would just change the rep scheme. That way they have enough time to get good at it. But you'll notice this is 4 to 6 sets. So we're going to go in the middle with 5. We're going to do 5 reps, which is actually the top of the range. But I could do 3. I could do 5, 3, and then 1 if I wanted to do, you know, change my sets around. So that's the sort of difference here, right? So it's XXX tempo. Now that is new for strength. You know, strength has usually been 202, but that XXX tempo is representing that, yes, you are trying to lift it as heavy as you can, but anybody who's ever done max strength will tell you it moves like this. Which is why, like, is it actually XXX? No, but what does XXX mean in your book? It means as fast as possible. If this is as fast as possible, it counts, you know? So we're listing it as XXX. And then we take 3 to 5 minutes of rest. Holy crap, that's a lot of rest. Which is why you'll notice I also, in this routine, took out the biceps and triceps, because this is already with 5 sets. That's 15, 30, 45, 60. That's an hour and 15-minute workout there.
That deadlift to calf raise, is that like the deadlift and then just stand on your toes when you get to the top?
Yeah, once you get to the top, you do want to do it as like 2 separate movements, but yes. So it would literally just be, you know, classic deadlift, right? Like boop, and then
Okay.
Hand.
So just like a kind of like a jump and not like a hold on the toes.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. You don't have to take a pause or anything.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And it's just meant to be, that's the total body movement that I picked. I picked that version only because I wanted to have something different than like a ball, like a squat curl to press.
Yeah.
Because then at the end, we've got a squat here.
That's a good idea though, because I used to do a lot of jump squats and I would put like 150 on the bar and do jump squats or like 185. But now I can't even do that because of my knees. I can't even jump.
I have a hard time jumping with a bar. I like weight.
I can't jump at all anymore.
Or dumbbells.
Yeah. I can barely walk around now. And I think it's because of that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's kind of jerky.
Yeah.
All right. Lastly, we got the power level. This one's going to get complicated again, kind of similar to phase 2. But the idea here is this is the peak performance stuff, right? Now, what is power? Power is a formula, right? It's force, which is the weight you're lifting, times velocity, which is the speed you're traveling. So if you do a lot of force, is that going to increase your power? Yeah, a little bit. If you do a lot of velocity, is that going to increase your power? Yeah, a little bit. But what if you did force and velocity in the same workout? That's maximum power increase. So that is where we are going to use the superset technique again, just like we did in strength endurance, only this time, instead of going from strength to stabilization, we're going to go from strength to power. Now that is one thing that does get a little confusing for people. They're like, wait a minute, we did a lot of times they start to, start to make an assumption. It's like, didn't we do strength first and stabilization second? Wouldn't the reason for that because it's the strength level, and so we just prioritize that? And that's a good thought, but the reason we actually did strength first is because it was just heavier. You always want to do high force stuff first and lighter stuff second. That's why it went in the order that it went in last time when we did that drop set. So this is like a drop set, but they call this a contrast set because it's a drop set where there is a huge difference between the weight, right? It's a very heavy exercise paired with a super light exercise. So there's a big contrast between those two. So for instance, a dumbbell squat, real heavy, paired with a power step up, which is like a body weight when you're jumping. So this is all about rate of force production, right? So power utilizes maximal intensities and maximal velocities to enhance your motor unit recruitment, your motor unit firing rate, and your motor unit synchronization. We are training your nervous system to explode here. Superset techniques of strength first, power second, similar body movements. So if we look at my example program here, you can see we are also going to do all of our movement prep stuff as well. We scroll down here. We're going to go with functional flexibility. That's now dynamic stretches. So you can see, right, SMRs, calves, hip flexors, lats, that's the same. But then walking lunge with a twist, that's a good one for the hip flexors. Inchworms, that's a good one for the calves and the lats. T push-ups, that's a really good one for the lats. And then arm circles also for the lats. Could have used a little more hip flexor work in there if I rewrote this program, but it'll work. Probably do another lunge variation if it were me. I mean, it was me, but if it were me now. So two sets, 15 reps each on those. And then for our movement prep, right? Core power, balance power, reactive power, medicine ball pullover throw, single leg hop to stabilization, right? Which I thought was a good pair for like doing the box hop to stabilization earlier. Now we're doing the single leg version of that. Used to be reactive, now it's power. I'm sorry, used to be reactive, now it's balance. And then ice skaters, maximum power there. And then 12 for everything with explosive tempos, except for the balance one, which was a hold your landing 3 to 5 seconds, right? Then we get into this. And this is where I basically did the exact same thing where, now we are going to do the bench press. So same chest movements, barbell row, same, the strength movements are the same. We did basically 4 months of the same strength movements here. They should be pretty darn good at it by the time we're done. We went with between 3 and 5 sets. So I went in the middle and picked 4. And then we want to go 1 to 5 reps for your strength movement. So it's still performed exactly the same as it was in max strength. You'll notice like we just copied all the acute variables for here down here for the strength movements, but the power acute variables have their own numbers. So you're going to do you're going to do 5 repetitions on the bench press. Then you're going to rack it, stand up, and you're going to do 10 medicine ball chest passes as explosively as possible. Okay. So that's 8 to 10 reps. Your tempo is XXX for all of them. And then the intensity is 85 to 100% of your 1 rep max for the strength. We already knew that. But the power one, there's sort of 2 versions of power exercises out there. There is the doing a medicine ball version, and then there's like the body weight stuff. So we're going to say for our intensity, it is up to 10% body weight, or we might say 30 to 45% of your 1 rep max. So the reason that 30 to 45 exists, and that's the most rare one that you'll do, you probably won't actually end up doing that in a regular gym that often. But the reason that exists is because when they invented contrast sets initially, that's how they used to do it. They would do it like a drop set, and they would actually just pick the same exercise both times with a massive reduction in weight. So you would do like a heavy bench press for like 5 reps, and you're just like, right? Rack it, and then you'd have a gym partner there who would strip it down. And let's say your 1 rep max, just to keep my math simple for my brain, let's say your bench press was 100 pounds, right? So that's 80, or that's 85%. Let's say that was close to 100% of your 1 rep max, right? Then you would go anywhere from 30 to 45% of your 1 rep max. So they would strip it off, and you'd be left with just the bar, and you would do it like this, as explosive as possible. And that was the original contrast sets. NASM wanted to have more distinction between like, what about like medicine ball chest passes? What about like, just body weight jumping, stuff like that. And that's where the up to 10% body weight version came from. So there's 2 intensities listed here, up to 10% of your body weight or 30 to 45% 1 rep max. And then you'll notice I have them doing this as superset, as straight supersets, right? So this, then rest 3 minutes. They could also do this as a circuit and take like a full on, that's what they're doing here. They could also do it a little bit differently, where you take 1 to 2 minutes between pairs. So if you wanted to, you could also do bench press, rest 1 to 2 minutes, chest pass, rest 1 to 2 minutes, back to the bench press, 1 to 2. That's another version of this as well. So power is really quite complex because there are so many different types of athletes out there, and there's such a wide variety of stuff that you can do within it. We have this kind of big complicated table here. But that's all that's the big chart in a nutshell. In your book, by the way, it will look like this. You'll find yours aren't green, yours are blue. It'll be like this color, but you'll see these charts here on pages like 371, 373, 5, 7, and 11. It skips one line in it, but this is like all the max strength stuff. I just took all this and put it into one big table. So there's one of these for every one of the, there's the stabilization, there's max strength. Those are all in chapter 14 of your textbook. So if you want to start looking at them now, you got 9 months to get them down. And it won't be as bad as it seems. Yeah, I know it's like a lot today. But and also honestly, once you pass your test, you get the book. You can just reference this stuff.
Yeah, we're always gonna have the book, and then we're always gonna have your videos, and and then they're titled too. So that's the thing, right? Like if I go on YouTube, like if I want to look up the video that was on, let's say osteoporosis and arthritis, that video is they're titled, huh?
It's all up there.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah, see. That's great.
So this PowerPoint gets a little weird here. I think they just did this so that they could get the homework to have some cardio questions in it for tomorrow. But here is stage training, right? So for stage training, you're going to progress from cardiorespiratory, stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3, moving through specific zones. So again, just like we talked about the other day, level 1 usually corresponds with stage 1 clients. It focuses on, working your way up to about 30 to 60 minutes uninterrupted, between 65 and 75% of your heart rate max. If you can do it right around 70, it's in the middle, it's perfect. It's like a 12 to 13 on the RPE scale. Talk test, you should be able to hold a conversation pretty comfortably. And then once you can maintain that for, like I said, about 30 minutes uninterrupted, you can probably progress to stage 2, although you may want to do like an actual cardio assessment again. Maybe reassess, redo their 3-minute step test, redo their Rockport walk test, see if they qualify. Take a look at stage 2, and it will have zones 1 and 2. So here you can see kind of an example interval routine where they get into their, stage 2, which is like 76 up to about 85%, just below your lactate threshold, just below the point where you're making too much lactic acid to be able to handle. And then you recover for 3 minutes, and then 1, and then 3, and then 1, and then back, right? So that's sort of our stage 2 approach. And you alternate between the two. You work in zone 2, which is 76 to 85, or a 14 RPE, 16 on the RPE. Talking should be difficult, but not impossible. And then you recover in zone 1. And lastly, for clients who are in stage 3, they are going to get the really advanced stuff here, right? They're going to get peak work capacity and aerobic fitness. This is where it's like they're above their lactate threshold. They are producing more lactic acid. No one can keep up stage 3 for that long. Otherwise, it wouldn't be zone 3. So they might do like maybe 1 or 2 minutes in zone 2. Right. I usually consider this to be like 76 here, and then like 86 here, and then here's like 90% here. And then they kind of alternate back and forth. And that's sort of our stage 3 approach, right? 86 to 95%. It's a 17 to 19 on the RPE scale. Talking should be nearly impossible when you're in this red zone. So then you kind of recover back here, or maybe even recover down here. Me personally, I like 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. It's my favorite. I like to go like 70% for 1 minute, 80% for 1 minute, 90% for 1 minute, rinse and repeat. That's my favorite, very, very basic but simple cardio routine that whenever I'm teaching people intervals, that's how I do it. I'm like, I want you to be able to do 30 minutes at 70%. That's the whole thing. And they're like, great. And then they do it, right? Next month, it's like, all right, I want you to do 70% for a minute, 80% for maybe 2 minutes, and then back and forth. 1, and then right, 10 rounds. The month after that, I'm like 1 minute here, 1 minute here, 1 minute here, 70, 80, 90, 70, 80, 90, 70, 80, 90, 10 rounds. Or yeah, 10 rounds. So yeah, comprehensive assessments, we know that that's always going to be the first step. None of this matters if you aren't picking a routine that's appropriate for your client, Make sure that you're using the OPT model. It is systematic and it is progressive. It builds on itself. Stage training is also really great. Stage training is a good way to keep your cardio from plateauing. And we always want to follow the recommendations followed in the OPT model, while also considering what it is that our client wants to work on and what is going to lead to the biggest overall improved quality of life. And Mir, that was your first big ass chart day.
Yeah, that's a big chart.
Yeah, right.
That chart is that the one that you said was in chapter 14?
Yes.
Okay, so that's in the book, that whole thing.
Yep, exactly.
But you edited it a little bit here and there, no?
What do you mean? I didn't change any of the numbers. All I did was organize it into one big page.
Okay.
That's the only thing I did.
Okay.
I don't want to mess with, I wouldn't mess with the numbers, considering that like I might disagree with some of them personally, but I don't ever mess with them because you guys have to memorize those.
Yeah, the numbers it's something else, bro, because like how yesterday I couldn't barely bench press 225, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think I failed at 225. And it was like the third thing I tried. I just warmed up to it and then failed. But today I did 240, and I could have probably done it twice, like 2 reps.
Everybody has good days and bad days too. That's where those numbers kind of break, you know?
It's like back to back. Yeah. So the numbers are something to, I guess, have something to reference. But then when you get to know your own body or your client better, then you're going to be like, okay, you know, yesterday full chest workout was just a warm up for your max today, you know? So
yeah, it's going to be, those numbers fluctuate all the time. There's so many times where like, I'll revisit my workout journals. And I'll have notes in there where I'm like, WTF, what happened? Because I'll just be like, I just couldn't do it that day. I'm like, ugh.
Yeah, there are
and then
those
next
days.
week I come and I do like 20 pounds heavier.
And another thing too is like, I don't know, sometimes I'll go to the gym and then I can't do anything there, right? Like I can't bench press 225 at the gym, right? But then I'll come home and then I'll do 240. It's just like maybe being in the certain place, like just how you said before, you got to get that person comfortable to being in the place. And
benches, maybe, you know.
That's another thing too.
Little things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, fellas, I gotta go do Sochi orientation. I gotta drive over to Sochi and meet all the newbies. We got a new group coming in on Tuesday.
Let's go.
Yep. I'm also gonna be out of town for a couple days next week. Just as a fair warning. Mo's gonna help me out and cover.
Okay.
But then I'll be back and, you know, full swing of it.
Okay, cool.
Right on.
And Thomas, you're gonna be in your final mod starting Tuesday.
Yes, indeed.
You're the senior.
Damn, Thomas.
Time's moving fast.
All right, fellas. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Have a nice day. Later, Thomas. Later, Brad.